Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to break down our next matchup for UFC Fight Night 269. In this matchup, we have Luan Lacerda versus Hecher Sosa. This will be a pretty interesting matchup. I think Hecher Sosa is one of the more anticipated um, graduates of last year's season of the Contender Series. Not just because he's very skilled, but he is that for sure, but simply the story he had coming into his Contender Series fight. As I can't remember if this was during the weigh-ins or a day or two before the weigh-ins. I think it was a day or two before the weigh-ins, but don't quote me on it. Sosa's father had passed away tragically, and he was going into a fight against Maxon Lee, who was a very tall, lanky bantamweight tall, lanky striker for the bantamweight division, very tall. And Sosa was going to have to go against a very interesting stylistic matchup. And, having the weight of his dad die before that definitely does a lot to a man. But the fact that Sosa not only was able to compete, but dominated that fight for round 1 to round 3 was quite impressive, and definitely is now someone I think is to watch. Like I said, of the graduates of last year's Contender Series, he's one of the ones to watch out for. Now, on the record, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 5-0 in his last 5. That's right, 14-1 in his overall career, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Which again, besides the Maxon Lee fight, has been fighting in WOW for most of his career, as well as VAR. Having some pretty good wins, and overall, he is a well-rounded finisher. He has decision wins, knockout, and submissions. He's an overall well-rounded fighter, I think, and pretty good. And this fighter out of Spain, I think, is pretty good. Now, his opponent, Luan Lacerda, he's currently 13-3 as a professional, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Now, excuse me. In the UFC, he's currently 1-2 in his last 5 fights, losing his UFC debut to Cody Stamann at UFC 283, then got TKO'd by Damon Jackson not too long ago. Then in his most recent fight last October, got his first UFC win against Simon Oliveira, where he submitted him via armbar. Granted, though, Simon Oliveira is not in the UFC anymore, and definitely was one of the worst fighters at bantamweight. I'm just keeping it at a buck. But still, Luan Lacerda did a good job of getting his first win in the UFC, so that does count for something. But with that said, let's get down to the breakdown. Starting with Luan Lacerda, I would say definitely Lacerda's best skills is his grappling. You look at his record of his 13 wins, 11 are by submission. That does exactly show you where his strengths lie. His jiu-jitsu is legitimate. I mean, like I said, regional scene in comparison to the UFC is a bit different, but 11 submission wins is something to scoff at. And particularly when the fight hits the mat, Lacerda's very good at getting submissions from different positions. Interestingly enough, though, Lacerda is more so pretty dangerous off his back, and actually that's where he gets like a good amount of his submissions, including a heel hook and the armbar he got on Simon Oliveira, which isn't something you see often in modern MMA. Most fighters, even if they're good off their back, are going to lose because everyone is so well-rounded and they're so well-versed in the guard. They're very good at defending submissions from bottom. But even so, Lacerda's ground game, especially his how good he is off his back, is very important because if an opponent is careless in his guard, he's very capable of threatening and catching them with submissions, but also highlights one of the biggest weaknesses of his game. Lacerda doesn't have strong wrestling, and a lot of times the fight gets to the ground because his opponents take him down rather than him initiating the wrestling and getting it to the ground. And that style doesn't very work at the UFC level. You look at the last 2 guys who beat him. Cody Stamann, who is a better wrestler than him, was able to deny all the takedowns and was just simply the faster athlete, while Damon Jackson was as strong, if not stronger, than Luan Lacerda and was able to reverse position, wind up on top. And because he had such good jiu-jitsu, he was able to win via ground and pound. So really, Lacerda's style of being able to go off your back, but not having the wrestling to complement it, is the biggest problem for him. As if he can't get the fight to the ground, he's kind of a fish on the water he's sort of a fish out of water on the feet. Now, looking at Hecher Sosa. Sosa appears to be the more complete fighter. His striking is very clean and technical. He's comfortable at range. He's not just throwing wild power shots. He tends to pick his spots well and maintain a steady pace. Another big advantage for Sosa is going to be his wrestling in this fight. He has the ability to defend takedowns and also initiate them when necessary. And that flexibility is important in a matchup like this because if he gives because it gives him control over where the fight takes place. And if he wants to keep the fight standing, he likely has the tools to do so. And even if this fight hits the mat, Sosa has enough jiu-jitsu skills, I think, to survive grappling exchanges and avoid getting caught in submissions. So how I think the fight plays out. This fight really comes down to whether Lacerda can create the grappling exchanges he needs. If he can drag the fight into scrambles and submission attempts, he absolutely has the ability to threaten Sosa. But if Sosa is able to maintain distance and keep the fight primarily on the feet, the matchup starts to lean heavily in his favor. Because in open striking exchanges, Sosa looks like the more polished and versatile fighter. And if he mixes in strong takedown defense and disciplined striking, he's going to control the pace of this fight. So, overall, while Lacerda has a possible path, he could always catch a submission last minute. He does have that capability. One mistake with this guy, and he could capitalize quickly. But relying on opponents to bring the fight into grappling situations is a difficult strategy, especially against someone who appears to be more well-rounded. As I think Sosa has advantages in striking, wrestling, and overall versatility. And if he fights a disciplined fight and avoids getting caught in something stupid, he should be able to control where the fight takes place. So for my official prediction, I'm going to go Hecher Sosa. And I'm actually going to pick him via finish in this one. I think he could TKO Luan Lacerda by being able to avoid grappling, keep this fight on the feet, use his clean, polished striking, and sort of pick apart Luan Lacerda for a lot of this fight. So for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Hecher Sosa, and I'm going to pick him via TKO in this fight. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this matchup. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I have been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. And remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.